The following video, Voices of a Fatherless Child, is a powerful and moving portrayal of the impact of a father's absence or damaging presence on his child's life. Through personal stories shared by individuals who grew up with and without a father figure, the video brings to light the deep and enduring effects of their relationship or lack thereof. Viewers will hear firsthand accounts of the struggles, challenges, and the emotional pain that these individuals faced as they navigated their way through childhood into adulthood. Viewers will learn about the ways in which a father's absence or even his presence can leave a child feeling lost, rejected, confused, unloved, and unsupported. These feelings continue to affect the child's relationship and behaviors as they grow older. But all is not lost, for in the end, the video also explores the ways in which these individuals have learned to cope with and overcome the challenges they faced and found strength and resilience in their journey toward adulthood. Overall, Voices of a Fatherless Child is a poignant and thought-provoking depiction of the lasting impact of a father on his child's life.
You said that you love me to the moon and back, yet you walked out and never took a look back. So the moon ain't a friend of mine. I can't understand being left behind. If I could just change your mind, I would change it all. I would rewrite history right before you go. My life ain't been the same.
Sometimes I feel like a fatherless child, for insecurity and low self-esteem greet me with each new dawn.
Lost in a fatherless world. Again, my world, my environment.
I struggle to find and feel his love, Daddy's love.
I know who he is, but he is not with me. His child.
His presence in my life was supposed to instill values and strength, security, and self-esteem.
But he isn't here. He's supposed to build my confidence and assure me that I don't have to settle for less.
He was supposed to be the first man that I loved and resemble the man that I would marry. But he wasn't there.
He's supposed to be the man that I would imitate and resemble the man that I could become. But he isn't here.
He was supposed to dry my tears and be my hero. He was supposed to protect and
love, encourage, guide, and provide for me. But he ain't here.
Sometimes I feel like a fatherless child, for both insecurity and low self-esteem.
Greet me each new dawn.
You said that you love me to the moon and back, yet you walked out and never took a look back. So the moon ain't a friend of mine. I can't understand being left behind.
The voices of many make up the voice of the fatherless child.
I've been running, trying to find myself. People driving around the world, we need help. Can somebody hear me screaming help? I can't win this by myself.
Do you think your life would be more complete moving forward as an adult if your father was in your life?
I would say that moving forward, had my father been an essential part of my life, confidence wise, I would definitely say my confidence level would have been through the roof. And confidence, and I would say the other thing too, one of the things that I noticed with the other fathers is the consistency. I believe that consistency would have been a part of my life a lot earlier, and I would not have struggled with some of the things that I struggled with growing up. So I definitely would say that that would have benefited me. Him just being there and just being consistent early on. He did in the latter part of his life, and when after I got married and started having children, um, he told me, he said, I wasn't there for you. And he admitted that. He said, I wasn't there for you, but I will be there for my grandchildren.
That was a hard one to answer because my father was a lawyer. My father was going to school. My father had 5 of us and he was 35. So I don't know exactly where his head might have been. If he was the type of father where he didn't see us after the divorce, then would he have seen us if we had lived in the house with him or would he have been about him? I don't know. What I do know is that where I am now, even though the road and the journey has been long, and even though I had not seen things, God puts things on your journey to when something else fails, something else shows up. And the greatest thing that my father could have done for me is place me with my grandmother. And I can't say that my confidence was built there, but the safety of her love was there. She was my ace boon coon. She was the only one that I felt that I could lay my head on her shoulder and share my deep feelings about not even feeling like I belong. At one point, I kind of felt that my father was not actually my father. I mean, I would even have nightmares that actually both of my parents, they found me. Only because I was the darker of my sisters and brothers. And I was the one that was talked about. I was the one, not just by them, but by my cousins as well. My hair wasn't as straight as their hair. It was a whole lot of crazy things, that just was said to me as a young child that made me feel like I did not belong in that family.
Yes. Um, wow. I think educationally, my father is very educated. Growing up, education was not a demand in my family. It was like mediocre. Whatever as long as you passed, that was okay. I think by having someone that stressed education would have propelled me to go higher in my education. Also, just having someone there that was educated kind of motivates you to do better in life and have more options and choices and not to just be led to one thing or one certain area in your life. So yes, I do believe my father's absence did impact my life in a way. As far as educationally, I could have done better. Now I feel that I'm very confident, and I don't feel that I'm weak in any of those areas. I think partially is because I have God in my life, and that I'm confident in whatever I do. You know, I'm a risk taker, and I just trust God in whatever I do. So that helps me in my confidence.
The only way that it would be more complete if he was in my life is if he was a different person and he purposely made himself involved in each of our lives and was interested in everything that we had going on with us and participating in our lives as we grew up. Um, if that's still missing, I don't know why it would be any different than what it is already. So it would have to be a different man, which never showed up while he was alive. The divorce and the absence of my father made me a child that wasn't very confident in herself. In fact, I lost my voice at a very young age out of an incident that happened where he did not listen to me when I was trying to explain a situation where everybody else or my siblings were against what I was saying, and he didn't believe what I said. From that point on, I made a decision to lose my voice and decided I would never. Well, I didn't believe that my voice mattered after that point, and I became a person that was very introverted and still am to some extent, and didn't think what I said or would say to anybody would matter. Over the years, my confidence has really grown through God healing my heart and my years of being so sad over the whole situation with my parents being divorced and the lack of their participation in my life. But since then, I think my confidence has grown year after year after year. I'm not where I want to be, but I see myself getting there.
That is a good question. I feel like if my father had been present during the formative and early teenage years of my life, I would have certainly been more vocal and secure in my voice, secure in my position on things, where if somebody asked me, I would have come forward with like, this is how I feel. And no, I don't want to do that. And no, I don't agree with that. Not having that father to affirm me during those formative years, I basically dumbed down who I was, and I basically just did things that I didn't wholeheartedly want to do or necessarily agree with. Uh, for example, there were conversations that I wanted to be a part of, but because I thought my 2 cents was irrelevant, nobody would pay attention to it and it didn't matter, I didn't even offer a cent. So I basically would just be quiet. And I would feel so strong about things and so convicted about things. Even my first sexual experience, I know my grandmother prayed for me. And I could tell you, I remember today the Holy Spirit. Now I know who he is and have a relationship with him. I know he was telling me, don't do it. No, don't do it. And not even 30 days after that horrible encounter, I was no longer even with that dude. So I know that if I had had a father to affirm some things in me, that value, that self-worth, there are some compromising situations that I would have not compromised in if I had a father there.
If your father was present, do you feel like you would have accomplished more in your life?
If my father was present in my life, a lot of decisions I would make, I would have first thrown off on my father first, especially with his life experience, knowing our relationship with him. And as I got older, knowing he's just not my dad, but my best friend. So a lot of decisions I would have made, marriage, homes, cars. I would ask my dad about it first, especially him being the man in my life and my friend. And I miss that. I miss having the opportunity to sit down and dialogue with my dad and, as they say, chop it up with him and just hear his point of view on things. And that'll always be a vacuum in my life. I wish I would have had a dad just to sit down, talk to the friend, maybe sit down and have a cup of coffee with dad. I mean, that'd have been wow, that'd have been great. But unfortunately, I didn't. So that's why I'm just thankful that I'm in my son's life, and they call me and talk to me about different things. And what I really cherish about relationships, I wish I'd have had my dad, you know, for relationships, but I didn't. But life goes on, and with God's help, I'm going on too.
Um, it's really hard to say just because I feel have accomplished so much. With being a teen mother, a lot of times women don't go to college, they don't finish high school, they end up on Section 8, they end up making minimum wage, and I did not have to go through that. I had such a huge support system in my house that I think that I actually was just, I feel like I was above the statistic. I think I was above most of the statistic. I finished high school. I went straight into college. I got accepted into a program where they interviewed over 200 people and they only accepted 20. I was one of those 20 that was for respiratory therapy. I did get kicked out of that program, unfortunately. But then I went to aesthetic school. I went to real estate school. I did so much. I became a radiographer, and now I'm a full-time entrepreneur, just making the money that I never thought I would make. So to answer the question, it's really hard to say just because I feel accomplished so much. Like, I don't think there's anything that I would change. Maybe I would probably have gotten started sooner being an entrepreneur, but I really think that career-wise and what I've accomplished, I think I've succeeded my expectations like crazy.
My father was present. Do I feel like I would have accomplished more in my life? Absolutely, 1,000%. Because as I gotten older and I started having children, and I saw the impact that my father had on my children. Now, this is their grandfather. I'm their father. But my dad had such an amazing impact on my children that I saw how they excelled even more now because they're getting hit with a double whammy. They have their father that's cheering them on, and they have their grandfather that's cheering them on as well. So I know for a fact that if my dad in my early years had been there and was there to cheer me on, to just tell me, give me the right advice in certain situations, I know for sure that I would have accomplished a lot more than I have up to this point.
I think my father hindered me accomplishing things back when I was probably 4 or 5 years old. One of the things that scarred me was I drew a picture and I was really excited. It's so crazy because I can vividly see me in the kitchen of my home in California, running to my parents, sitting on this bench or something, showing them a picture that I had drawn. I was so excited. Instead of my father seeing the picture as I drew it as a child, he started telling me about the lines were crooked and coloring outside the lines. It was all negative. And at that age, I didn't understand what he was saying. It just said like I did something wrong. And I think from that point, I never, ever showed him my art. At that point, too, he asked me, what did I want to be when I grew up? And I said, one is the eagle. I don't know why I said that when I was little, but I always wanted to be an eagle. And they laughed at that. So I'm like, we don't say that no more. But then I said a cartoonist. And then he said, there's no money in that. So, okay, I'm not caring about money. All I'm doing is drawing, and my desire was to draw. So, no, I don't think that I would have accomplished more if my father had continued giving those type of answers. And I don't know if he would have or he didn't, because we weren't with him after California. Recollection of him, or even when we did go to school and he could comment on our stuff, he didn't. But the funny thing about that particular incident about the drawing, or saying the cartoonist, when I got in high school, I had an art class. I loved art. My secret. But I would draw these cartoons. I would get the newspaper and I would draw, keep on drawing. I drew exactly what I saw, to the point that my art teacher would write in my books, have you ever thought about being a cartoonist? That struck a nerve. And even to this day, I still have those sketches. And I often wonder, how far would I have gone in that if my father would have just seen my potential? And not too long ago, I picked up my pencil again just to see if I could do what I was doing. And I did. So, if my father was present in my life, would I have accomplished more? Not with those type of answers, no, I would not have. One thing I can say about my desire for art, I didn't get there the way that you normally get there, by going to school, taking these classes, and doing graphics, but God saw it fit or allow me to, as I drew, I started making flyers. I started making actually cards by hand, scribbling and doing things like that. And people would buy my cards. People at church would buy my cards. And one thing led to another. So everything that I do now and I know now, it's because I sat there and I let desire be my guide to open the door of the purpose that was for me. And I went to the school of spirituality, I guess you say that, because I don't have a degree in what I do. I do what I was ordained to do, what I was gifted to do. And it wasn't by the encouragement or the words of my father.
Are there decisions you've made that would have been different if your father was present?
That's a very good question. And, your foresight is always better. But in hindsight, I feel, there are a lot of decisions that I would have made that would have made my life better if my father had been present in my life. I had to struggle when I was dating young men. Is this the right guy I should date? Is this the places I should go when I'm dating him? Is this the way the young man should talk to me? Should he open the door for me? I think dads would tell, their young daughters, about how men should treat you. Now, let me make it plain. No guy has ever hit me or touched me, because, as I said before, I grew up wanting to be in the gang, so no, that wasn't happening. But the femininity in me wanted the caressing, the oh, you're gorgeous, you're beautiful, I love you. That's what I didn't get. And it's because the guys that I dated, and seriously, and married, they all had families. I guess maybe in hindsight, I think I kind of attached myself to those guys who had their family of origin intact, in place. I didn't have it. And when I would go to their homes for dinner or would go out or for their family reunions or whatever, yeah, the mother and father were there. And I began to feel a blended family member. That's what I was looking for. So yeah, things would have been differently if my dad had been present in my life. I feel that I could have accomplished more. It was a struggle for me as I grew up. Even though I didn't miss school, but I do have fighting on my resume. But so he would have said, look, he would have shown me how to handle those types of conflicts. See, when you don't have something, anger and bitterness, and I would say with me, because maybe not with everyone, but with me, I was angry. Why should they have a dad? I don't have one. Why should that happen? So I had to find a release. How does a child vent and get it out? That they're hurting emotionally, that there are those voids. I didn't know how to say that and didn't want to say it to my mother, who worked 24/7, trying to raise all of us, making sure we had a roof over our head, clothes, all of those kinds of things. But listen, you need more than that. You need more than that. You need to feel loved. And you know what? It has to be consistent. And if my dad had been in my life, I do feel I would have been a better person.
Are there decisions that I have made that would have been different if my father was present? Absolutely. Um, I would even say just things like the whole home buying experience, because he was a homeowner. So there were things that he could have saved me from or walked me through. Um, just things like that. Car buying experience. Um, if he would have been there to walk me through, just certain things as a young man. I believe that even though we're all accountable for knowledge and things of that nature, but it's just a special thing when your dad can be there to give you just that solid advice. And this is somebody that you grew up with. This man was in your house and you've seen him walk a certain way, and he can give you just that, okay, son, this is what works. You know, that is what works, just things of that nature. So absolutely, it would have been totally different.
I don't think so. Well, maybe, because I would have been a different person. The only way the decisions would have been different because it would have been a different person making it, because he was present in my life while growing up. So that naturally would have created a different Julie than the one that was. So I don't know exactly what the difference decisions I would have made would have been, but that would have definitely, I think, had some influence on any decision that I made if he was present in my life from day one.
Do you know anything about your father? If so, how did you learn these things about him?
Um, After my father became absent when he lost visitation, I didn't keep contact. I was only 7 years old, but I did receive letters, calls from my aunts. My dad's side of the family really worked to keep in contact with me, and to this day, I'm very appreciative that I know them. My aunties tried their best to fill the void that my father left, and for that, they're truly and greatly appreciated. I still keep in contact with my aunties till today. Maybe not as much my uncles, but some of them do reach out as well. And I'm always visiting my grandparents. So I'm very thankful that they took that effort to step out for me.
So, yes, I know things about my father. It came multiple ways. I guess through his family, most of it. My mother really never talked about my father like that. Um, we had a relationship where she allowed us to find out how he was on our own, so to speak. So she never said a bad word about him, never talked down about him to us or anything like that. And the things that I have learned from him mostly came from his family, the majority.
Yes, I do know about my father. First 13 years of my life, he lived with us. And that's how I got to find out things about him and things that he liked to do, things that he ate, stuff like that. Um, and as an adult, we always had phone conversations, and he would come visit us in the summertime and stuff like that. So, yeah, we got a chance to talk and get to know each other, even though he wasn't there the majority of my life. Some of the other things that I learned about my father was through his aunt and his brother. And those are the only two people who could really tell us anything about him, because he was adopted and he was trying to find his family and he didn't know much about them. So the little bits of information that I do have came from him, came from his siblings, and my interaction with them as well.
Was your father's absence explained to you in a manner that you understood his absence? If so, did the explanation help you to deal with his absence in more of a positive way?
Yes, for many years, I never got answers on the absence of my father until I actually met my father. There was many stories that was told uh, from my mom's side and my dad, well, not my dad's side, but my mom's side and my foster mom. So when you hear it from the person, then you get a better understanding of why things happen in the way they did. So my father explained to me that at the time he was young in the service and that he was leaving, and my mom told him that I wasn't his child. So at that time, that's he took it as I wasn't his child and went on to the service. Later on, um, pursuing him and trying to find out who my father was, uh, we took a DNA test and found out that I was actually his son. Um, After that, I got clarity and was happy to know that I had closure in my life as far as knowing who my dad was. And the explanation that he gave me was suffice. And now we have a good relationship, and I'm thankful for finding out who he was.
Was my father's absence explained? Absolutely not. My father's absence was not explained to us at all. And maybe my older siblings might know something, but he was just gone. He was just not showing up at the house. And when we lived over east, like I said, I don't see him there. I don't see Christmas. I don't see him sleeping there. I do remember him coming by to see us, but I don't ever remember him being in the house with us. And there was no explanation. He just was not there.
Wow. I don't even remember an explanation. Maybe I blocked it out if somebody tried to tell us, other than he won't be living with us anymore, and he was gone, and he has a new wife, and he has a new baby. And as far as an official explanation, I really, maybe it's me, I really don't remember one. I think we were just on the sideline watching it happen and just dealing with it as it came to us.
In your father's absence, did you have a stand in father figure? If so, who was it?
Well, in my dad's absence, I did have some father figures, plural, because when you don't grow up with your father, um, I believe that you latch on to the closest things that you can get, or people, men in this case, that can be father figures to you. So I looked at my Mr. Rollins was a father figure when I was living in Little Rock, Arkansas. Mr. Hall was a father figure. Mr. Rollins is deceased. Mr. Hall is still alive. And these are my friends that I knew when we moved from Chicago when I was 5 years old to Little Rock, Arkansas. And we're still friends to this day. So, and my mother married into the Talley family, and John Talley, he's still alive. He's 92 years old. He was an awesome father figure to me. Part of the reason why, one of the reasons why I got into church was because of the Talley family. They introduced me. My mother was married to his son, of course, which is my little brother's father, and he introduced me to the Holy Spirit. So um, that's where that's when I got saved. Is when I was introduced to the Talley family and John Talley. His father, which is Von Talley, was my stepdad. John Talley was his father. Vaughn was a father figure in my life, but his father was like I would say the prototypical like man that you just strong man. Um, Him and his wife were married for over 50 years. Mama Talley is deceased. We call him Papa Talley. That's what we call him, Papa Talley. And he was so instrumental into just advice growing up. He taught Sunday school class. Um, Church was always just a huge. I mean, was nothing bigger than church in his life. So he really helped shape and mold some things. Cause I used to watch him. I just used to watch him and how he talked to his kids. I watched how he talked to his wife. And to me, I said, all of the children are doing well. So I said to myself, this would be the type of father that I would want to become if I ever had a family.
Did I have a stand-in father? Absolutely. Without him calling himself that, I probably leached onto him. My stand-in father would have been my cousin's dad. There are 3 things that he did in my life that just made me love him, love him, love him, because he saw me. One of the things that he did was one Christmas, I remember I wanted this doll, the Chrissy doll where the hair comes out and gets long. I don't remember telling him that. I don't know how he heard it or whatever, but I wanted that doll for Christmas. And after we went from my mom's house opening presents, we went to my aunt's house. And under the tree was this Chrissy doll. It warmed my heart because it wasn't so much the doll. It was about he somehow heard me. He made it a point to go and get something that I wanted. And I still to this day don't know how he knew that. But he got it, and I still have that doll to this day. The other thing that he did, going to school, I didn't feel dumb with him. I remember being in a play or a skit or something, and I had to say this word, and I couldn't pronounce comfortable. And I was telling him I was having a hard time. He was encouraging me, like, you're going to go up there, you're going to do such and such. And I'm like, I don't know this word or whatever. And he said, no, this is how you do this word. He said, see this? C-O-M, come. He said, fart the bull. He made it funny. Come fart the bull. Who would not forget that? And he told me to keep saying that. And when I kept saying it, when it came time for me to do it, I said comfortable. And that was, again, an important moment because my parents always made it feel like it was okay if my grades were not good. My siblings they got in trouble. I didn't. So it was like, it's okay for me to be like this. This man actually showed me how to do some things when I ran into problems with my schoolwork. I never experienced that with my dad. And the thing is, when we wanted to play softball, it was my uncle that took us to Washington Park. We got that ball and we was playing games, softball. I mean, I really was sort of jealous that my cousin had a daddy. It was like she gets to have a daddy, but we get to share him a little bit, but he's still not ours, but we get to share him. So I would say that he was the stand-in dad. And I have to say was because when we moved over to my grandmother's house, we didn't spend that much time over there anymore. And then he since passed by. He was a police officer and he got shot. But the moments that he made in my life, the different moments, I also remember another thing. We were going down to the Marina Towers where you used to can ice skate in the wintertime. And I just wanted to ice skate because I went to a school where the kids that I went to school with, that's what they were doing. They were skiing and ice skating. We weren't doing that. So I just mentioned that I wanted to ice skate. My uncle went and bought me some ice skates. He didn't only take me, he took me, my sister, and my cousin down to Marina Towers, and we were on the ice skating. I mean, these are the type of memories that a dad should leave with their child. And this man left those things with me. So yes, I had a stand-in dad, and it would be my uncle.
I had many stand-in father figures. Mike Gordon was one of them. Anthony McPherson was one. Houston Hunter was one. I've had many men in my life, especially men in the church, that helped me along the way. Again, I said earlier about observing people and God placing people in your life, even if it was for a season, has helped me along the way and through the years as that absence as a father. So a lot of times you don't know how people look at you, observing you, and how you're being a blessing to them without even saying anything. And there was many men that were vocal in my life that helped me along the way, and men that wasn't vocal. Just observing their lifestyle has helped me along the way, and I'm grateful for that.
So the answer to the stand-in father is actually twofold for me, again, because I thought my sister's father was my father from like birth pretty much until probably 11 or 12 years old. And then around 14 or 15, or maybe a little younger, my mother actually married my brother's father. And so this man was actually not healthy at all. So again, these messages that I have growing up with this unhealthy man were written on my heart. All men cheat. All men, they're unhealthy. All men basically are manipulative and deceptive, from my experience with my stepfather. So that question is actually a double whammy for me, where it was failed twice. It was heartbreaking to experience my mother loving love so much that she would try to do it right with one of our fathers, and he still blew it. This guy was just unhealthy. The words he would use toward my mother, the way he handled my sister and I was very inappropriate. it's just a lot that happened under his watch that's the reason why I've never wanted girls, because I didn't think men could appropriately raise or handle girls. And so his experience put a fear in me to ever have a daughter. I'm like, oh no, she'll never go through this. And so I remember as a little child just asking God, never give me a daughter, Lord, because if she end up hurting anyway, I will have on that nice little orange jumpsuit. It's just not going to go well for me mentally or physically. And so I scared myself out of those experiences from having a little girl. Now that I'm healed, I just wish we had another little Kilo running around with a beautiful smile, lighting up the room. But I have it through my sons, but I just wonder, what if that stepfather experience had been healthier, where I wanted a little girl again?
With my father being absent, the stand-in father figures that would have been in my life, I have multiple. I have my mother, I have my grandmother, and I also have my brother's father. So my brother's 3 years older than me. His father definitely stepped up and responded and took care of me as if I was his, because he didn't have to. I came after my brother, so he didn't have to. I definitely thought about changing my last name just because I felt that my brother's father really loved me like I was his own. And, I definitely still have respect for him to this day, for him doing those things, because he didn't have to do that. My grandmother, anytime that we had anything, I would always refer to my mom as my mom and my grandmother as my dad. So my grandmother definitely stepped up to the plate and filled that void of an absentee father. And of course, we have my mom. She did it by herself, raising 2 kids on her own. So she definitely played a father figure for both me and my brother. So those are my 3 stand-ins for an absentee dad.
I don't feel like I had just one father figure. I would say that I had a few, because each of these men instilled values that I hold to this day. At the top, I would have to say that the first one would have to be my grandfather. After that, I would consider my 2 uncles. And then I'll also say that my younger brother's dad is a father figure.
No, I did not have a stand-in father figure in my life. The only father figure that I had was my mom.
People driving around the world, we need help. Can somebody hear me screaming help?
You are so good. You're the best dad ever.
Yeah.